Hey everybody, I'm super excited to do the intro here today. As you know, we have Cirque doing a performance for us. We're going to have apparently the balance goddess. I'm tempted to try my stab at it first here. It's told very explicitly that I'm not allowed to touch any of the wood back here, but it's very tempting, I have to confess. I'm going to have to resist as best I can. But so we have Lili Chao, she is the balance goddess, and we have Jamie Reilly, the manager of Cirque here, and who will come up and talk afterward. So without further ado, please welcome the balance goddess up to the stage. You don't have to take those away. I'll put it up again. Sorry about that slip up at the end. Anyway, how about another big round of applause for the Balanced Goddess? And Jamie Reilly is going to come up and tell us more about Cirque. Come on up.
Thank you very much. Wow, so how about that, huh? The Balanced Goddess of Amaluna. It's really quite a phenomenal act, really. I've been with the show since its creation, so I've had the chance and the opportunity to see the Balanced Goddess, as we like to call her in our world, hundreds of times, really, and I can tell you I never get tired of seeing it, and I am enthralled every single time I watch it. When people come to the show, or when I talk about Amaluna, which ironically enough, I'm not going to do a lot of today, but just a side note, when people come and they ask me what we have in the show and so on, I usually try not to talk too much about the Balanced Goddess because I like to keep the wow and the wow factor and that surprise effect that comes with this amazing act. And I always make one promise, and the promise that I make is that at the end of the act, in the big top, which holds 2,600 people, nobody will be breathing. And I can make that promise because I'm sure none of you were breathing by the time she finished. And I know that I'll be right, and I am very confident when I make that promise. And to be able to have one artist on stage that can capture 2,600 people night after night, we do 300 somewhat shows a year, is phenomenal in itself. So, well, a few notes on Lili Chao and the Balanced Goddess. To start off, I guess I'm just going to come out and say it. You know, I was very excited to be working on a presentation that I was going to come and talk to you about. I'm also a bit nervous, to be very honest with you, because I admire a lot what you guys do. So I'm going to come out and say it. I love Google. Yes. I'm a very frequent user of Google. Google plays as much as a role in my life as does a fork and a knife, a pencil, or a toothbrush. For me, Google is really a tool for life. I believe that your site is the best and really the only place to access information of whatever kind I need. No matter what I'm looking for, you will make it easy for me to locate. You will make it relevant for me. You will ensure that it's relevant for me, sorry. You are my one-stop info shop. You have changed the way I live, the way I work, the way I learn, converse, even the way I think. But when I recently visited your campus a few weeks ago, I began to learn that there are other sides to Google which I find profoundly exciting. Your ever-increasing interest in the latest technologies, robotics, neural networking, social prediction, wearable technology, which, by the way, I got the opportunity of wearing the Google Glass at lunch today. Very, very cool. Self-driving cars, gene sequencing, and so on. You guys know the list much better than I do. You could say that if it's weird and out there, Google wants a piece. I, too, have the great fortune to work for a company which I believe to be the most innovative in its field, Cirque du Soleil. Perhaps we could say that Cirque du Soleil does for the circus arts what Google does for the search engine. Both companies started from a simple idea and grew to define the parameters of their industries, carving an indelible place for themselves, becoming that companies that are often imitated but never equaled. Google is most definitely a courageous company. You are not at all afraid to take a leap into the unknown, to risk, and sometimes to fail. In fact, it seems to me that you're not at all afraid of failure, that you simply see it as a necessary step on the road to success. This fact really stuck with me and really got me thinking. In the circus world, nothing is achieved without first failing time and time again. No juggler ever juggled with 6 balls without dropping them thousands of times. No flying acrobat ever did a triple back somersault without missing his catcher over and over again. And I can tell you that even with a net, it really sucks to fall from 30 meters. It's true. So I began to see that Google and the circus world have a lot in common. In fact, I would go as far as to say that Google and the performing arts not only share a fair bit of DNA, but are also deeply connected. At first glance, our two industries could not seem further apart, the performing arts and technology. The performing arts are all about human expression, the mapping and communication of emotion, storytelling, the planting of a seed in the audience, evoking the desired response from them. When the curtain comes down on Romeo and Juliet, the director hopes that there are tears in the eyes of the audience. When the symphony fades, the composer hopes to have touched the audience in some way. When the ballet ends, the dancer hopes that his or her body, has told the story that will stay with the audience forever. So what is technology? This was a tough question for me, so I turned to my friend Google, and I began my research. The Oxford English Dictionary defines technology as the use of science to solve problems. Now, when I look at what you guys do, I found this definition to be very narrow, too utilitarian. I think we need to look further afield to have a better grasp of understanding of the phenomenon of technology. So I thought of looking at what the philosophers thought. Aristotle described technology as completing or enhancing what nature was unable to finish. Wow, he really thought of you guys, right? Technology takes on a noble purpose, enhancing and completing the work of Mother Nature. Suddenly, writing computer code begins to take on an almost godlike dimension. The philosopher John Dewey said that technology looks for solutions to problems by questioning the nature of the problem itself. Now, I like this definition. This different understanding of technology brings us closer to the ancient Greek root of the word. The logi part comes from the Greek word logia, meaning study, such as psychology is the study of the psyche. The tech part of the word also comes from the Greek technia, meaning art or skill. It can also be understood to mean the way something is done. So this brings us to a whole different understanding and definition of technology, and one that I find a lot more interesting: the study of the art, the skill, the way something is done. I like this definition. Instead of looking at it purely from a scientific point of view, we can begin to see technology as having a seat at the table of the humanities, alongside language, literature, philosophy, and of course our old friend, the performing arts. It is no longer simply a branch of science at the disposal of industry to find ways to make things more quickly and more cheaply. We begin to see technology as a human expression born from our curiosity and the wish to improve ourselves, addressing that burning desire to understand, to advance our understanding, creating something that never existed simply because we can. However you choose to describe them, the arts and technology have always gone hand in hand. The oldest art form so far discovered is a painting of a disc and a hand on the wall of a cave in Castile, Spain. It is at least 40,800 years old, and this very work was made possible by a technological advancement, the discovery of paint. The chisel was the most advanced technology of its time and allowed sculptors to sculpt. Da Vinci to create his David. Munch's Scream would have never been painted if the paintbrush hadn't been invented. It goes without saying that film and technology have long gone hand in hand. The earliest special effects, stop motion, time-lapse, dissolve, were all technological advances. From there to Avatar, film and technology have been inseparable. In our industry, the circus world, technology also plays a key role. This is in obvious ways like advances in lighting, sound, projection, and set design. But there are less obvious ways in which Cirque du Soleil and the world of technology are deeply connected. In order to make hats and wigs for our artists, we need to have a model of their head. In the past, this has involved long and strenuous process for our artists because we did a plaster model of their head, basically. They had Vaseline in their eyes and straws up their nose. The advent and the arrival of 3D printing technology made our artists' lives a lot easier and Cirque's processes a lot more efficient. We use the latest medical technology to ensure that our artists get the best possible medical care and treatment for their injuries. We also tap into the latest trends in athletic performance assessment to optimize our artists' physical conditioning. Each year, we develop new acrobatic figures and acts as advances in technology allow the human body to go further, to do more, and to reach higher. 30 years ago, a group of young street artists in a small town near Quebec had a simple idea. They wanted to reinvent the circus. 30 years later, I think we can all agree that that's exactly what they did. To understand the contemporary circus, it's important to have an understanding of the history of the traditional circus. Circus as we know it today, performed in a tent or arena, displays of feats of human and animal skills, amazement of the audience through defying the laws of gravity, jugglers, acrobat, clowns, and so on, has been around since the 1700s. The heyday of the circus industry lasted from the end of the 19th century well into the middle of the 20th century. The traveling circus brought entertainment to the cities and towns of the world. It showcased wild and exotic animals. It left audiences in wonder with its incredible acts it presented. For many decades, the circus was the only form of entertainment to which most people had access. The arrival of film and then television was a death sentence to the circus world. Suddenly, amazement was available every Saturday afternoon for the price of a movie ticket. By the 1960s, circus audiences were falling, and the once great circuses of North America and Europe were slipping into decay. Only few would survive. In the 1980s, a new kind of circus began to take shape in a few places around the world. It was no longer in tents, but on street corners. Young jugglers, fire breathers, and stilt walkers were taking over the cities. Montreal was no exception. A group of young street artists called themselves Le Club des Talons Hauts, which means the High Heels Club, because they were all stilt walkers. They were dedicated to the circus arts and believed that circus could live again and gain a new place amongst the performing arts. All that was needed was a new way of looking at it. Two members of the group, Guy Laliberté and Daniel Gauthier, decided to take a next scary step. They decided to put together a full circus show. And in 1984, the first production of Cirque du Soleil was born. To show you a little bit of the evolution of Cirque du Soleil in the past 30 years, I've brought a little video to share with you. Impossible is just a word. I'm sure this speaks to you guys a lot as well, eh? I've seen this video a gazillion times, and I never get tired of watching it myself. I get goosebumps every single time. Today, Cirque du Soleil has 19 shows performing worldwide to an audience of 15 million people a year. We employ 4,000 technicians and professionals. We have 1,300 artists in our companies. We have made movies and television shows. We have designed nightclubs. We have performed at the Oscars. Actually, we did that twice. We have won countless awards and critical acclaim. In fact, it seems like the only accolade we're missing is a Google Doodle in our honor. Hint, hint. Despite all of this achievement, despite the company's size and complexity, Cirque du Soleil has not lost a sense of its roots. In some way, each of us still feels like a street performer. We have never forgotten that our audience is at the heart of our company, and that we have a mission that goes beyond the simple business of show. The mission being to invoke the imagination, provoke the senses, and evoke the emotions of people around the world. I wonder if this story rings true to you, because I think it should. As I researched your company by Googling Google, I learned that Cirque and Google have some things in common. Both were born from the simple idea of two friends. Both companies revolutionized their industry. Both have a very strong sense of mission and purpose. Both believe in doing business without doing evil. Both keep their customer at the core of their activities. Both believe in doing more than great and reaching excellence. Someone asked me recently why 15 million people a year take the time and spend the money to see a Cirque du Soleil show. And I really had to think about that question for a while. Is it the beautiful, evocative music? Is it the stories we tell? Or the stunning aesthetics of our shows, the sets, the lights, the costumes? Or could it be the magical, dreamlike quality of our productions? Now, I think all of these ring true and play a key role in our connectedness with our audience. But I don't believe that any of them reaches the core of what we do and why we have been embraced by audiences worldwide. The first time I saw a Cirque du Soleil show was more than 20 years ago in Montreal. I sat and watched Alegria, a show that celebrated the energy, the passion, the grace and power of youth. I was transfixed. On that night, I began an emotional relationship with the company that has not ended to this day. That unique emotional relationship is what I believe brings our audiences back time after time to see our shows. They are drawn into our world. They allow us to touch their imagination, their senses, and their emotion. This is a great responsibility shared by most artists. Having such access to people's innermost stuff is a great privilege and a great responsibility. We must not take our art lightly. We must be committed and serious in our pursuit of the beautiful, the aesthetic. But Google, too, has developed a unique relationship with the world, one which makes ours pale in comparison. You have become an integral part of the lives of billions of people. You are as important to them as the knife and fork, the pencil, or the toothbrush. You've caused a new verb to be born. We no longer look something up, we Googled it. In 2013, the human race ran, and I'm going to read this, 2,161,531,000,000 Google searches. When I saw that number, I couldn't even say it. I had to Google how to say big numbers, and that's a true story. I don't have a good sense of the sheer size of that number, but I can tell you one thing for sure, without the slightest doubt. That number means that no matter what your job is here at Google, what you do every day is not trivial. What you do is more than important. It is fundamental society forming. You are changing the world around you. You are changing the human race. You are challenging how things are by exploring how things can be. You are information jugglers. You are contortionists of the possible. You are acrobats of invention. You are magicians. You are technological artists. A recent Time magazine article described Google, therefore all of you, as increasingly strange. Well, as a circus person, I don't mind telling you that I like the look of strange. In my world, strange means being so bendy that you can sit on your own head. It means being able to balance on a high wire, to fly through the air with millimetric precisions into the hands of a catcher. It means being a clown, evoking laughter from tears. It means being a nomad, rootless, homeless, wandering the roads of the world. If in the Google world, being strange means being courageous and edgy, pushing the limits of the human condition, striving to find ways to make the human experience better, then go for it. Be strange, celebrate your strangeness, your googliness. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think we have a little time for questions. So if people want to come up to the mics here, I don't know, do we have a Dory thing going? No, okay, just questions at the mics.
Any questions?
Come on up.
Hello. Bonjour, Jamie. From One French Canadian, it always makes me very happy to see Cirque du Soleil whenever they perform. My question to you is, Google is a company that's built by the people that work here, and for Cirque du Soleil, as someone who did gymnastics, my mother's a gymnast from Montreal, it never occurred to me that like Cirque du Soleil is something you can join or do, so I'm kind of curious how you recruit all the coaches, all the technicians, all the artists that you find.
It's a very good question. There are various ways in which one can join Cirque du Soleil. Because we have a very good brand name, we're lucky because we receive a lot of resumes, videos, proposals of all kinds, really. We also work very similarly to professional sports. So we do have scouting teams that will go around the world from the Olympics to gymnastic competitions and so on to recruit talent from a very young age, of course. We will hold casting calls, so very similar to the movie world, in various strategic places around the world, where people will come and present what they can do. And those, I would say, are the main ways that we recruit people at Cirque.
You want to try something up here right now? It's a big chance.
I would need like a waiver or something to do that, I think, so no.
All right. Anybody got an act? This is your big chance to join the Cirque. All right, a question.
I have a question, but no act. Could you describe the origins of Amaluna and how the piece actually became created? Did people search for an act first or a plot first? How's the genesis of the show?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, Amaluna is a show that celebrates or showcases women, which is the first in the history of Cirque du Soleil. It's the 32nd production of Cirque. We're just about to be 2 years old, so we're still a very young show. We have a cast of 70% women, which includes an all-female band, which is also a first for us at Cirque, so we're certainly very proud of that. Amaluna was directed by Diane Paulus, who was actually here a few months ago, I believe, doing a Google Talk, if memory serves me right. Diane is very famously known on Broadway, so I like to say that Diane brought the theater to the circus. She was very much inspired by The Tempest from Shakespeare, Greek mythology, the magic flute from Shakespeare, and has done a mashup of those elements. And of course, because we showcase women, instead of having a Prospero, we have a Prospera, who is the queen of the island. Once we do a creation, it's a very organic process. So it's not defined as saying we look for acts that fits in the story or vice versa. Creation is something that's very organic, as I'm sure you can all understand. So there are certain acts or certain elements that we knew we wanted going into this production, and others that came about in the evolution of the creative process. You always stumble on things, make new discoveries, and creating a Cirque du Soleil show, or a big top show, I should say, at Cirque, starts 4 years before a world premiere. So it takes a long time, and there's a lot of evolution, of course, that will happen throughout that 4-year time period.
Hi there. Thanks so much for attending today. This is amazing. I wanted to just ask, how long on average do shows stay on tour for?
Another very good question. One of the very unique elements of Cirque du Soleil in the entertainment world is that we do not reproduce our shows, contrary to Broadway or other theatrical productions. So our shows, we retired Alegria a few months ago, and Alegria was almost 20 years old. Mystère is still going strong in Vegas, and they're already 20 years old. So because we don't reproduce our shows, it allows us to keep them alive and performing for many, many years. So I would say between 15 and 20 years is more or less the lifespan of a show with Cirque.
Hi, I've always wondered about the ideation process that you use at Cirque. Like the beginning of O, when I first saw O almost 20 years ago, you know, the entire curtain gets pulled up into the balloon. And I just wondered, how on earth would you come up with that idea? And how do you make sure that you can come up with ideas that are impossible and pursue them?
That's a very good question, and it's one that's very hard to answer because, again, of how organic everything is. To talk about O specifically, I remember when Guy came to the office one day, and they were in the creation process of Dralion, which was another one of our big top shows. When we're in the full creation process, he showed up at the office one morning and he said, I want to do a show with water. And everybody around the table looked at him and said, well, that's never going to happen. How are we going to do that? And he says, I don't care. We're going to create a show with water. But I think it's really more about looking at all of these elements, and we could talk about this for hours, but it's about coming back again to the core values of the company and saying that there are no bad ideas, everything is explored, and impossible is just a word. We live by that every single day. Just with Amaluna as well, we have a water bowl on stage that sits on the traveling stage, and then when it's full of water, it weighs 7,000 pounds, just to give you an idea. When we call engineers and say, hey, we need a traveling stage, and we need to have, it needs to hold 7,000 pounds, everybody said, that's impossible, that's never gonna happen. And we said, no, well, we'll call the next guy if you don't wanna do this, because we're not taking no for an answer. So having that at the core of our values allows us to be able to explore the impossible.
Hi, thanks for coming. So you've been involved with it for 20 years, so I'd love to hear how the audiences have changed and how your shows have changed accordingly. So what you're launching now versus 20 years ago, is there more action? Are you expecting people like here to take a bunch of photos during it? Love to hear that.
Another very good question. You guys have very good questions. I think we're actually now in a place at Cirque where we're starting to explore all of that. We're starting to understand the world is pushing the boundaries around us and that we need to find ways to adapt to that. Might it be with taking pictures during our shows while, of course, keeping our artists safe because that is our number one priority. Amaluna, which is a very recent production, when we were in the process and we had a composer for the music, the first time Guy listened to it, we all thought the music was fabulous, right? And Guy said, I don't like this music. And we were all a bit surprised because we were like, well, we all like it. We were sure you were going to like it, Guy. And he said, no, we've done this a gazillion times in all of our shows, the more new world, new age type of music. So he says, I want something completely different. And from then on, we went into a completely different direction. And for those of you who have seen, or those who haven't, certainly hope you'll get the opportunity to see it. The music is rock with a techno edge. We've gone completely in a different direction, and you certainly do feel that freshness and so on. But one of the greatest challenges in a company that is now 30 years old and has the size of Cirque is to keep pushing those boundaries within the parameters that we have and to make sure that we're continuously reinventing ourselves. And as the years go, the more difficult that's becoming. So recently we've announced that we are starting a new theater division within the company and that we're relooking a little bit at how the company is structured. And the reason we're doing that is to be able to address all of those burning questions and to be able to ensure that we remain innovative in 2014.
How many mistakes are made on average? Like, has the balance goddess ever sneezed? And
Yes, absolutely. I don't think she's ever sneezed, but she has dropped the sticks, yes. Not often, not often. But let's not forget something very important. It is it's live entertainment. It's live entertainment done by human beings. Little mistakes happen probably every single night. There's never one show that's exactly the same. That's the beauty of our art, right? We'll have injuries, people out, people in modified queues because of injuries and so on and so forth that we have to deal with on a daily basis. But because we hire the best in the industry, people who come and see us usually never notice these mistakes or barely notices these mistakes because we're very good at fixing them or working around them. But it remains live entertainment at the end of the day.
How do you encourage artists to continue pushing the limits of human potential further? Do you have like a 20% time?
When you're on the road, that's very difficult to do because sometimes we'll do up to 10 shows a week, and we do have limited space in our little village. It is 65 trucks of equipment, but when it houses 115 people, there is so much space that you have to play with. But that's essential and vital to ensure we put on the best shows every single night. So we do encourage and support artists, and they're also very interested in learning different disciplines. We have teeterboard artists currently working and learning the Roussille, which is a completely different discipline. So this keeps them motivated, it keeps them creative, it keeps them interested and dedicated to what we do. So I wouldn't say it's a specific guideline of 20%, but each week we make an effort to make sure that we have time to allow our artists to do that.
Actually, I have a question for you related to that. You just mentioned the village. So where do all the performers and other staff live when you're traveling for a couple months? No.
Many, many years ago, in the 1990s at Cirque, we lived on site. In the
tent?
beavers, we called them.
Like in the big tent?
We had trailers on site, and that's where we stay, but we've stopped doing that. I like to say that what we do is camping deluxe at Cirque. We all live in corporate apartments. Hotels are extended stays, so we're very well looked after.
This kind of goes back to how long your shows will run for. If you have a show like Mystère that's been going on for more than 20 years, how do your artists and performers sustain that? Do some come and go? Does the show change a little bit because new artists have to be brought in to kind of accommodate the ones that may retire or get injured and can't come back for some reason?
Yeah, absolutely. Artists will come and go. It's like anything in life. Some will stay for a year, some will stay for 15 years. It all depends on what their wishes and desires are or their physical ability to sustain what it is they're doing within the show. One of the great things at Cirque is that we're always very adamant in not touching the integrity of the show, so the main storyline. However, compared to a Phantom of the Opera, for example, where it's exactly the same thing because it's based on a book, we do allow room for growth. So we will, in some cases, bring in new acts or different acts and the show will continuously evolve. Even Amaluna, in the last 2 years, we've just recently gone over to have a changeover in artists. And the acts themselves are the same, but what they do is different. So this is an effort and a growing, living organism, if you wish, that we work on every day to sustain. So they do evolve quite a bit. You could see it in a year and think, oh my God, it was very different from what I saw last time, but the core of it will be the same.
Hi. Before Cirque, it seems to me like a lot of big top circuses used to rely heavily on animal acts. Can you speak to I guess, why Cirque doesn't use animals? And I think it's an amazing decision, by the way, but maybe was that some conscious decision that you guys decided on in the beginning? Or?
Yes, absolutely. We respect other circuses and the use of animals, and we respect what they do tremendously. But back in 1984, when Guy and Daniel had this vision and this idea of creating a different type of circus, it was very important to Guy, and his whole idea was based on the premise of showcasing the human body. In his mind, why would we use animals when human beings can do phenomenal things? And what we do at Cirque du Soleil is really to showcase that. We're showcasing the human abilities, and that's what we've done, and that's what we choose to do, which is why we'll never have animals in our shows.
Hi. Traditionally, the only way to watch a Cirque show has been to go to like a production show in Vegas or something, or be in a city where Cirque tours. But last year, a couple of years ago, you came up with the movie. I'm just curious how that impacted. Did it get more people interested in Cirque du Soleil, or?
Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't seen specific numbers on it, but I certainly hope it has, because what's important to understand as well, especially with our big top shows, we can't go to every city in the world. Our arena shows have enabled us to explore new territories and cities, but when you're traveling with 65 trucks of equipment, you can't go to Alaska, for example, or Hawaii, because it would make no financial sense whatsoever, even though I would love to go to Hawaii, but it wouldn't work. So being able to do movies or television shows, we certainly hope that this allows to reach more people around the world and showing the beauty of what we do at Cirque.
Wait, dumb question. There's a movie? Does
yes,
everybody know
there's
this?
two of them.
Am I the only one? Okay. And they play like in theaters, or you?
Yeah, the
run-
latest one, which I believe was around a year ago, was at the movies. Yes, it
And
was.
is it just like a video of a performance, or does it have like a movie plot? And
It's really, we've brought acts from various shows, and David Cameron put together and directed the latest movie that we've put out a while ago.
Hi. My question is, do you also try and collect some data to probably analyze and improve the shows?
Yes, we do. We do that on a marketing perspective, on a conditioning perspective. Our coaches and our experts continuously look at ways and injuries and statistics so that we gain a good understanding of what they mean, because in the circus world, even circuses look to us to get that information. So we're sort of leading the charge and being able to have a better understanding of what doing 300 shows means on the physical body in various disciplines and so on and so forth. We do it in marketing. 15 million people come, as I was mentioning, come and see Cirque du Soleil every year. So I think we're the biggest entertainment company in the world. So we're trying to grasp what that means and try to use the data to its full potential as much as we can.
Can you talk a little bit, can you talk a little bit about how iteration works during the choreography process? Do artists have very much input into what goes on?
Yes. Again, the creation process is something that's very organic. So Diane Paulus had a vision, of course, when she came along and created Amaluna. It was her first time ever working with Cirque du Soleil and working in the Big Top, which is a very unique venue to be in. So she needed, obviously, to gain the perspective of our artists, because even she'll have ideas and say, okay, I want you to do that, and then the artist will say, well, I can't, because it's not possible to do a quadruple somersault or whatever it is that might be. So the communication between the group of artists, the choreographers, and the director are essential in ensuring that we build and create the best shows possible. So again, it's something that's very organic, but having that open-mindedness is fundamental in what we do.
Hi, can you speak a little bit to the different challenges of the arena shows versus the Big Top versus the, Vegas permanent? I've enjoyed several different kinds.
Yes, you're well aware. That's actually the three different types of shows we have at Cirque. So we have the Big Top show, in which Amaluna is performing, which is very unique when you think about it, because we travel with our own venue, with our own little village. We have arena format, and by this what we mean is that we only travel with the show itself, and we go into fixed venues around the world. What's interesting with the arena shows, and we've only started doing that in around 2006 at Cirque, and what was interesting and what has been amazing for us in doing that is that it really has allowed us to explore new territories that we had not been able to with Big Tops. As I was mentioning, arena shows have gone to Hawaii and to Alaska, Eastern Europe, to the Middle East, and so on and so forth. So it's really an amazing opportunity where we focus more the Big Top shows in the bigger markets, such as here in San Francisco or San Jose. We're off to New York after this, and Washington and Miami and all of those bigger cities. And then we have the permanent or resident shows, which we currently have 8 of in Las Vegas on the Strip, and 1 in Orlando. So obviously these are built on a much different scale. And to give you an idea, Amaluna, which was started building obviously in 2011, 2010, is a $30 million production. Ka in Vegas, which was created in 2004, if memory serves me right, so almost 10 years ago, was a $65 million production. Just to give you an idea on the scale. And here we're talking about shows where the theater was built for the show. So they are shows that will never move. If you want to see O or Ka, you will need to go to Vegas to see them.
Since your performers have very physically demanding acts, it seems like a lot of them might kind of retire from Cirque early than they might, sort of early. So I'm just wondering, like, what, they spend a lot of time developing a very specific skill set, and it relies on physical dexterity. What does it look like for them, like when they retire? If you were to try to generalize, what does life after Cirque look like for a performer?
Absolutely. Well, we do have a program, which we call the Crossroad program at Cirque, which allows artists, where we fund artists to learn other skills. A lot of them do become coaches obviously because they know their disciplines so well, and they have done that for the majority of them since they've been very, very young. A lot of them will become Pilates instructor, yoga instructors. And yet, again, like anything else in life, some of them, I've worked with artists who have done master's degrees in business while they were artists at Cirque. Nowadays, again, with technology, they're able to do all of those courses online. And if they are willing, the possibilities are endless, really.
Okay, and the last question.
I wanted to wrap it up and ask, what's the relationship between a touring show on the road and the home headquarters in Montreal? Is there a lot of regular communication, what iteration? Is there a mock-up of each show out in Montreal?
There was probably, no, I don't think there's a mock-up of each show. A lot of communication, which means that for me being on the West Coast, I do get up often at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. for conference calls. And I'm sure it's a very similar relationship as to what you guys live here at Google, with either working with satellite offices around the world. Montreal, the headquarters, really plays a role in establishing the parameters, the guidelines, all of the corporate services from legal to corporate taxation and so on, sit in Montreal to allow us on tour to be able to operate and to focus on the shows. So if they will also support us with managing our infrastructure, finding sites in future cities, starting the permitting process as we focus on our day-to-day activities.
Okay, and thank you so much for presenting here for us today, and for the Balance Goddess. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And I'll see you all Thursday afternoon.